Welcome. Welcome to First Parish in Needham, a Unitarian Universalist congregation of humanists, theists, atheists, agnostics, seekers, and interfaith families. I am Rick Vincent. Eileen and I have been members of the church for over 3 decades. We have served on numerous committees and been involved in many social action endeavors, but I must say I do have a soft spot for one in particular. For almost 15 years, I have been a volunteer for a generic ministry, which was founded 20 years ago by 4 people, 2 of whom were members at that point in time of the church, and one of whom is still an active member, John Mark Thomas. Since that very day, this loving community has been stalwart supporters of generic ministry in many ways. You've donated a lot of time, effort, clothing, financial support, all of which we would not be where we are today if it weren't for that. So we thank you very much, and on behalf of generic ministry, which I think most of you know, drives a cargo van into Boston twice a week, 52 weeks a year, to serve the Boston homeless community. On behalf of the board of generic ministry, I'm really thrilled to thank you and to invite you to our 20th anniversary gala. It will be held this Sunday at the Needham Historical Society from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. We'll be having beverages, including beer and wine, and we hope everybody will come, one and all. Adults, children, we'd love to have you all, to have you join us in what we think will be a very joyful celebration, and our way of saying thank you for all of your support. I hope you can join us. Please RSVP through me. My email is rbgvincent@gmail.com. I'll have more information at coffee hour on the coffee table. And did I say it's at the Needham Historical Society? Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure. It's a lovely place, and I hope you all come. You can learn more about generic ministry and all of the other happenings at First Parish by going to our website, uuneedham.org, and signing for our weekly email newsletter, or by following us on social media. Our order of service is online as well, at the QR code in your pews and at the website, uuneedham.updates.church. Please speak with our ushers, greeters, and Zoom hosts if you have any questions or accessibility needs. At First Parish, we covenant to live out our shared values of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, respecting the earth and co-creating beloved community. Whoever you are, whoever you love, whatever your background or identity, whatever your age or stage, whether you walked or rolled in, and whether you're participating, wherever you're participating from, you are welcome here. It is so nice to see all your smiling faces and some that I have not seen for a while. Welcome. Welcome once again to everyone here and online. We are so glad you're here today.
As we light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, we read words from queer Mexican-American educator and UU lay leader, Pat Urbe-Lichi. Our chalice is a reminder that in hard times, our ancestors in faith acted with courage to bring hope and safety, to bring life itself to threatened people. We light it today as a reminder of who we are called to be in a world still dangerous and despairing. With courage and faith, we bring ourselves to the work before us. Our opening hymn, Vine and Fig Tree, is inspired by words of the 8th century BCE prophet Micah in the Jewish scriptures. This Tuesday marks a month since the start of violence between Gaza and Israel with an attack from Hamas. Since then, thousands of Israeli and Palestinian civilians have been killed, and with our hymn, we offer a prayer for justice and for peace. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing Vine and Fig Tree twice through. The lyrics are in your orders of service on screen and at number 399 in your gray hymnals.
In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the covenant is a set of promises the membership of a congregation strives to honor with one another and out in the world. Whether we participate in our community online or in the building, we strive to live these promises every day. Please say along with me the words of our parish covenant as are in your orders of service. We gather as a loving community to encourage and comfort one another. We gather as a diverse community to support each other in our search for spiritual truth. We gather as a service community to live our lives and actions through our world.
Good morning. Sorry, of course. I am Sarah Elizabeth, and I'm also Knuff. If you haven't seen the Barbie movie, that probably makes zero sense, and I'm very sorry. But welcome to Barbie Sunday, Barbenheimer Sunday. There is a lot happening today in service, today at the church in general, today in the world at large. There's a lot going on. But as we think about what's happening now and where we continue to go, it seems almost too fitting that our concentration, our theme for the month is inheritance. Because the reality is that the future we have is always a part of something we have received. A history we may or may have not chosen. There's a lot going on. I want you to think about what it means to inherit a whole community, good and bad, as we hear today's story. Today's story is Something Good, written by Marcy Campbell and illustrated by Karina Lucan. The day the custodian found the bad something on the bathroom wall, all the girls from Mr. Gilbert's class were called into the principal's office. The principal asked if we had any information. Some girls said, "No, Mrs. Martinez." Some girls stared down at the carpet. Mrs. Martinez took her time looking at each one of us. She seemed very serious and very sad. She said quietly, firmly, "This kind of thing won't be tolerated at our school." We all started fidgeting. We wanted to know, what is the bad something? Who did it? What will happen next? The principal said no one was allowed to use that bathroom. But after lunch, Kyoko made a run for it. Tanisha and Emmy and I were right behind her. We giggled our way in and shut the door, then shushed each other as we looked around, over and on and under, until we saw it. The bad something. Tanisha turned around and ran out. Kyoko kicked a stall really hard, and the sound made us cover our ears. Emmy started to cry. The next day, the bathroom door was locked. The girls had to go all the way up to the second floor. Why do the boys have it so easy, us girls thought? How does the principal even know it was a girl who did it? A boy could have snuck in. We all watched our classmates. We studied their faces to see if anyone looked guilty. We tried to remember who had gone into the bathroom and when, but most of all, we wanted to know who had done it and why. The bad something had made us feel horrible, all of us, because by then each of us had told someone what it was until everyone knew. Even our parents knew because the principal had called each house. Our parents whispered while they drank their coffee, but when we came into the room, they went quiet. Some of them hugged us at the morning drop-off for way too long. We missed the days before the bad something appeared because everything was different now. Some of us felt worried or confused, sad or angry. No one felt nothing. We were meaner than we used to be, like when Devin went to sharpen his pencil and tripped and we laughed. Mrs. Martinez called the whole school to the gym to talk about something important, she said. Her voice crackled into the microphone, and she told us that we were all special, that her school was special, and that she knew more than anything else in the world that we were kind, even if we forgot sometimes. She told us the bad something had no place here. Then our teachers gave us pens made from ribbons and our school colors to remember who we are, the principal said. We held our heads a little bit higher when we walked back into our classroom. Mr. Gilbert sat in a circle with us. His eyes were shiny when he said he had a big project, an art project, and we could all participate. When the boys came into the girls' bathroom, we snickered, but Mr. Gilbert said it was okay because we were all in this together. We painted and painted, straight through recess, all over that bathroom wall. Each of us had something to add. Mateo drew flowers, and Rosa drew dragons, and Kai drew both, plus some rainbows and dogs and lots of smiling people. We drew our whole class, and then we kept going. We drew our whole school. The principal liked it so much, she let us keep working on it a little bit each day until practically the whole wall was covered. We couldn't believe what we'd made. But then we remembered. We asked Mr. Gilbert if the bad something was still there, and he said, yes, that somewhere deep underneath it was still there. But we had changed it. We had changed it when we covered that wall with our good somethings. We studied our work and wrote poems about what we saw there. We wrote about how our painting had more green than gray, more sun than clouds. Then we wrote about the world outside. We wrote about how there was more good than bad, more love than hate. We are nicer than we used to be. Devin reads his poem now, the very first time he's read out loud in class. Some kids smile and nod. Some kids lean way forward so they won't miss a thing. Some kids close their eyes and let his words wash over them. We take our time to look at one another. We all see something good. This story, unfortunately, is frequently relevant in our lives. In the community of Needham, it's even particularly of the moment because of reports that last weekend there were teens heard hurling anti-Semitic slurs. These are issues in our community. It is easy for us to say, that's not Needham, that's not us. But underneath, there is always something there, something we have to think about, something we have to work on. I want to leave you with an author's note from Marcy Campbell, who wrote this book, about why she wrote it. May it all inspire us to think about what we can do next. Something good was inspired by real-life events at my children's schools. In one case, I knew what the bad something was. In another, I never found out. I witnessed, as both a parent and classroom teacher, the wide range of children's reactions to these troubling events. And I know that just as there are varied reactions, there are also varied solutions. In my own life, I have found that creating art is a useful way to process strong emotions. At the end of this book, the children are kinder and more empathetic, but my hope is that the work doesn't stop there. Teaching children kindness in the classroom is absolutely vital, but it can only go so far unless adults are willing to do the hard work of educating ourselves and advocating for programs and policies that respect and value all children. And I would add, all people and all beings. May it be so.
Thank you, Sarah Elizabeth. As our children follow Sarah Elizabeth to their religious exploration opportunities today, please join in singing Long Time Son as in your orders of service and on screen.
May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on.
This is the time in our service when we share the joys and concerns that are very close to our hearts and our lives. For anyone not able to be here in the church on Sundays, I'm receiving pre-submitted candles at candles@uuneedham.org by the Friday before the service at midnight. If you're participating on Zoom or YouTube, you may type your candle into the chat box to be held by the community watching the service with you. We have no pre-submitted candles today. So if you are in the building and have a joy or concern to share, please come forward, light a candle, and then state your name, and if you feel, would you please share your pronouns and briefly describe what's on your heart?
Hi, my name is Lily Whitman. The past 24 hours has been tough for my mom and I, communication-wise. She's getting on my last nerves. I hope our relationship is better. Living on my own. This past week, I'm so happy to be on my own. Another thing is, my sister is the second offer on the house that I said a few weeks ago. And that's it.
Good morning. I'm Claire Galkowski. My husband Jan couldn't be here this morning, but he asked me to share a joy, a message of gratitude, great gratitude from Jan Galkowski for his two sons' visit during the past week. Dave came in from Brooklyn, and Jeff and our granddaughter Lily flew in all the way from London for several days. It was a wonderful visit, and we're just so blessed to have family, and I connected them with my own daughter and grandgirls too, because they're cousins, even if step. So.
My name is Beth Sargent. My pronouns are she and her and hers. This is a candle, I'm not quite sure how to categorize it. A candle of disappointment for something that did not happen last night. A candle of gratitude that this will be rectified. So for the first or maybe second time in 41 years of running the Homegrown, we had to cancel last night. We canceled because our stalwart performer, Greg Greenway, who never cancels, literally could not speak. He had the worst case of laryngitis he's had in his entire life, and he called up very apologetically, made sure that he talked to every one of us as his voice failed him for speaking. He said he didn't want to come and just croak at people, that they would not be happy with that performance. So we are looking to reschedule sometime when the church calendar allows, and his schedule allows, hopefully in the spring of 2024, which is the next season after winter. But I just also have it's also gratitude for all of the performers who are so dedicated to making sure that there's music here when we tell you there's going to be a coffee house. I'm so grateful for all of the volunteers who stepped up to help out yesterday, and so helpful, so happy to say that we have amazing volunteers who work behind the scenes to make sure that our message gets out. So this is sort of, I guess, a little resiliency too. I thank you as a community.
I'm Judy Hadrick. My pronouns are she and hers. This is a candle of remembrance for my friend Judy Warren, who is my best friend. She passed away a year ago yesterday, quite suddenly and unexpectedly, much to the sorrow of all her friends. So I just wanted to remember her today.
Hi, I'm Elliot Chakowski. This is a candle of gratitude for all the delicious food and well wishes and visits that we got from my wife, Lynn, who's recovering from surgery on her foot and isn't quite ambulatory yet, but she's getting around pretty well on a scooter. But we very much appreciate all of the phone calls and the visits and especially the meals. Thanks very much.
And I have a candle to share. It's a candle of sorrow and of healing for our sister congregation in Sharon, Massachusetts, the UU congregation there. One of their members was murdered last week, and a good friend of mine who's a member of the congregation is grieving, and I ask that we just hold them all in our hearts. And now for all the joys and sorrows that remain silent in our hearts, and for the prayers of our neighbors near and far, we light a final candle. May the peace in this sanctuary be felt too wherever you are participating from. As we remember that even though worshiping in different times and places, we are all still deeply connected. And now as we settle into our time of meditation and prayer, I invite you to allow your body to be cradled by the pew or chair wherever you are. Feel yourself supported by the love and care of this community, and breathe with me, in and out. Our prayer this morning is from queer Euro-American UU minister, Reverend Lynn Cox. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships, make your presence known to us and in us and among us. Remind us that we are not alone in history. Ignite us with the courage of the living tradition. Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future. Anchor us with patience and perseverance. Remind us that we are not alone in our times of grief and pain. Comfort us with your Spirit. Manifest in human hands and voices. Remind us that we are not alone in joy and wonder. Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in this world. Divine music of the universe, let our hearts beat in diverse and harmonious rhythms, cooperating with an everlasting dance of love. May we move with the rhythms of peace. May we move with the rhythms of compassion. May we move with the rhythms of justice. Source of stars and planets and water and land, open our hearts to all of our neighbors. Open our souls to a renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in the work ahead. Amen. Please remain seated and join in singing our meditative response. I know this rose will open. We'll sing it twice through, and the lyrics are found in your order of service, on the screen, and at number 396 in your gray hymnals.
This congregation has been supported by the volunteered time and treasure of its members and friends since its founding in 1711. This is the time in our service when we, the modern stewards of the church, offer what we can to build and sustain the congregation and the world we envision. For the month of November, our collections are being split 50-50 with the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC. The UUSC is the merged social service organization of the Unitarian Service Committee and the Universalist Service Committee, both founded during World War II to help those escaping Nazi persecution and to support relief efforts after the war. The symbol of our denomination, the flaming chalice, was originally the symbol of the Unitarian Service Committee. To donate to today's offering, you can use one of 3 different methods as described in detail in your orders of service. You can use text to give, you can donate through our website, or drop cash or a check in the collection plate or mail that to First Parish. Whichever way you donate, please remember to specify whether your donation is meant for the collection or for your annual pledge. And if this is one of your first visits to First Parish, we also encourage you to fill out a yellow card that should be in your pew back to drop in the collection plate, or to fill out our online visitors form at uuneedham.updates.church. And many thanks to Claire Galkowski for our flowers this morning in memory of her mother, Rosalie Robinson, who would have celebrated her 92nd birthday last week. And thank you all for whatever you are able to give to help support and sustain this congregation and the vital work of our community partners. May the ushers please come forward.
I'm trying to tell you something about my life. Maybe give me insight between black and white. The best thing that you've ever done for me is to help me take my life less seriously. It's only life after all. Well, darkness has a hunger that's insatiable, said he could see through me. I spent 4 years prostate to the higher mind. Got my paper and I was free. I went to the doctor and I went to the mountains. And I looked to the children and I drank from the fountains. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. The less I seek my source for some definitive, the closer I am to find, yeah. The closer I am to find, yeah. Stop by the bar at 3 a.m. to seek solace in a bottle or possibly a friend. Woke up with a headache like my head against a board, twice as cloudy as I'd been the night before. I went in seeking clarity, and I went to the doctor, and I went to the mountains, and I looked to the children, and I drank from the fountains. We go to the doctor, we go to the mountains, we look to the children, drink from the fountains. We go to the Bible, we go through the workout, we read up on revival, and we stand up for the lookout. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a cricket line. Unless I see my source from some definitive, the closer I am to find, yeah. Closer I am to find, yeah. Closer I am to find, yeah.
On July 21st, 2 films were released. Oppenheimer, a historically based drama about the development of the nuclear bomb, and Barbie, a comedy drama about a popular doll. Barbie and, well, we suppose Ken, too. Dubbed the Barbenheimer phenomenon, these movies attracted the best ticket sales in movie theaters since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, with Barbie grossing over $1.4 billion and Oppenheimer over $932 million. Our reading this morning is an excerpt from Euro-American film critic and photographer Alex Billington's editorial called Making Sense of Life, on philosophy of Barbie and Oppenheimer. Billington writes, "Intellectual filmmaking is rather uncommon these days, and yet we have 2 big movies pushing boundaries again. Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer isn't just a story about the man who led the team that created the atomic bomb. It's about the moral implications and existential struggles that come with that. It's about how hard it is to handle the guilt and sadness that comes with knowing your creation killed so many people, then lead into a world perpetually fearful of death. Greta Gerwig, her Barbie movie also deals with existential worries. What happens when you go out into the real world and learn that who you are and the world you come from are not actually representative of the real world? It was just a utopian fantasy, and the real world is much more sexist and greedy and careless. Both films ask similar profound philosophical questions. What does it mean to be you? How do you make sense of your life, specifically in relation to how your life has impacted the world in both good and bad ways? It's no coincidence that both films feature their main characters having mental breakdowns, trying to figure out who they are and what their place is in a world. The parallels are fascinating in that they're so different yet so similar in their exploration of existence and meaning, and how one person or even one idea can have a great impact on humanity and on our real world. Did Barbie change the world for the worse? Is she actually a harmful representation of toxic feminism? Did Oppenheimer change for the world for the worse? Is he actually a harmful representation of dangerous science? Thankfully, both filmmakers are talented and intelligent enough to not provide one clear, definitive answer to these kinds of questions. Both movies are an exploration of ideas, conversation starters, thought-provoking works of art. Barbie, even though it is pink and glossy and bright and fun, is also examining the same darker sides of the world as Oppenheimer. Is one woman truly solely responsible for what she causes if others misuse our creations in nefarious ways? Both Oppenheimer and Barbie are a grand examination of a life that's also an examination of humanity, our real world of men and war and the power they crave. Here ends our reading.
Hi, Barbies.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Kens.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Alan. Good work, everyone. If you went out to the movies the weekend of July 21st, surely you would have seen the crowds of people all decked out in hot pink, and other crowds all decked out in black or brown jackets and pork pie hats. You may have even seen some folks in dark jackets and hats shed that attire to reveal hot pink. Those special few who spent more than 5 hours in one day in the theaters, seeing Oppenheimer and Barbie back to back. In Unitarian Universalism, we honor the power and inspiration of Scripture from the world religions, and we recognize that modern cultural productions, poetry, books, music, art, film, can hold inspirational power too. As people of faith with strong shared values, we also recognize that all these texts require mindful interpretation. We regard the interpretation and use of sacred and secular texts a serious endeavor to be approached with great thoughtfulness. How do we as Unitarian Universalists interpret the phenomenon of Barbenheimer? As we heard in our reading, both films pose serious questions about the value and purpose of humanity, the complexities of American history, and the impact individuals, or dolls, can have on our world. The films simultaneously critique American history and culture and, though likely unwittingly, perpetuate harmful narratives from that same history and culture. I don't want to spoil these films for any of you who haven't taken the 5 hours to see them, which is easier to do with Oppenheimer than it is with Barbie. Oppenheimer is a biopic about Jewish-American theoretical physicist Robert Oppenheimer, who's best known as the leader of the World War II Manhattan Project that created the world's first atomic bomb. Inspired by the Pulitzer Prize-winning biography American Prometheus, the film focuses on Oppenheimer's path to and leadership of the Manhattan Project. And it tells the story of Oppenheimer's messy personal life and longer career arc, including becoming the victim of anti-communist McCarthyism. Through the recounting of Oppenheimer's life, the film exposes and explores ethical issues beyond the core dilemma of creating nuclear weapons, including the historic and ongoing failure of American society to help those with mental illness and addiction, and our historic and ongoing demonization of socialist and anti-capitalist ideas. And while many, especially in Japan, have criticized the filmmaker's choice to not show the immediate nor long-term impacts of the bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, anti-nuclear activists have praised how the film portrays Oppenheimer's moral injury from creating the bomb and his lifelong anxiety about the danger he brought into the world. In one scene, Oppenheimer meets with fellow Princeton-based Jewish-American theoretical physicist, Albert Einstein, and says, "When I came to you with those calculations for the bomb, and we thought we might start a chain reaction that might destroy the entire world," by which he meant they literally thought that there was a small, but still possible chance that the bomb test would ignite the Earth's atmosphere and literally destroy the world. That's not what happened when the bomb was tested. So Einstein asks him, "What of it?" And Oppenheimer, reflecting ambivalently on the crowning achievement of his scientific career, replies, "I believe we did." Robert Oppenheimer died fairly young of throat cancer after a lifetime of chain smoking, but he witnessed the ballooning of nuclear stockpiles, which today sits at about 13,000 atomic weapons held by 9 nations. The film Oppenheimer means to unsettle its viewers about the ongoing threat that nuclear weaponry poses. Barbie, the latest film from Euro-American Unitarian Universalist director and actress Greta Gerwig, is more challenging to talk about without any spoilers. I'll do my best. Gerwig's fantastical Barbie, in which Barbies and Kens and one Alan live in Barbie land. It's explicitly a critique of the patriarchy, right down to the film's conscious flip of the roles men and women typically play in films. The Barbies are celebrated for their competent and universal leadership of their community, and the Kens are very good-looking, not very bright, and only have a good day if the Barbies look at them. The film meets the Barbie doll with goodwill towards their creator's intent and expresses Gerwig's strong feminism. 20th century Jewish American businesswoman and Mattel toy company president Ruth Handler created Barbie, a perpetually single woman with outfits matching every job imaginable, to empower girls like her daughter, Barbara, to dream they could grow up to be anything. This was very radical in 1959. Euro-American professor and museum curator Dr. Susan Asprey reminds us, by 1965, Mattel had introduced Miss Astronaut Barbie. To date, she has well over 200 careers, from paleontologist to CEO to NASCAR driver, reflecting women's many roles in the workforce. She has served in most branches of the military and made 7 bids for US president. Those of you who have seen the film know that you meet many of these accomplished and self-assured Barbies who come from a variety of racial and cultural backgrounds, including President Barbie, portrayed by African-American actress and writer Issa Rae, and Nobel Prize-winning Barbie, portrayed by biracial actress Alexandra Shipp. The latter, when accepting her award on screen, quips, "I worked really hard for this, and I deserve it." The Barbies' lives of authentic confidence and uncomplicated joy are explicitly contrasted to the lives of women in the real world. For, as one character puts it, it is literally impossible to be a woman. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never fear, never get out of line. It turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault. I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us. In the film, stereotypical Barbie, so blonde and so conventionally beautiful, can only transcend what she was made for after she chooses to feel, to not get back inside the box, and in her own words, become the one imagining, not the idea. a model for all people struggling to break free from the patriarchy. When asked about Barbie's mixed cultural reputation, Gerwig replied, "I think it's German-Jewish philosopher Walter Benjamin who said that there's no tool without blood on it. I think kind of anything you look at, you're going to have a side of it that has something that makes you question it, certainly. Barbie, just like anything that exists that's a human creation, it's got some stuff that's not so perfect about it." Thank you for the transition, Greta. As while we're interpreting the positive and inspiring messages within the text of these movies, and possibly just enjoying them, we strive to use our critical thinking to see where toxic cultural narratives and tropes have seeped into these groundbreaking films. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the Barbie movie, produced by the toy company Mattel, has rose-colored glasses about Barbie's cultural impact. There is one character who calls Barbie a fascist, who destroys girls' innate sense of worth with unrealistic physical ideals. Now, this comment did set up one of my favorite lines in the entire film, which is stereotypical Barbie saying to herself, "She thinks I'm a fascist. I don't control the railways or the flow of commerce. I bought a shirt. I love it." But that is a very light acknowledgement of the damage the Barbie aesthetic has done over the past 60 years. While the movie shows Barbies and Kens of many ethnic backgrounds, there are only 2 Barbies who are not skinny and only 2 Barbies who are not able-bodied. I was listening to the lead song of the Barbie movie, the first one you hear, by the artist Lizzo. There are no Barbies who look like Lizzo in the Barbie movie. Mexican-American writer and fat rights activist Virgie Tovar wrote, "In one study, playing with Barbie was correlated with girls having lower self-esteem and an increased desire for a thinner body, and a paper in 2016 reported that playing with Barbie led to an increased internalization of the thin ideal among girls ages 5 to 8. The list of studies that show the negative effects correlated with Barbie is lengthy and unequivocal. And while it is implied that some of the Barbies and Kens are part of the LGBTQ community, like queer actress Kate McKinnon's short-haired and quirky Weird Barbie, a couple of gay-coded Kens, and stereotypical Barbie's asexual lack of interest in anyone, especially stereotypical Ken. And then Alan. Nothing is explicit. Throughout this film, created in a feminist lens, there's no commentary about how stereotypical hetero-passing thin white Barbie might have a different experience than the other Barbies from historically marginalized identity groups. Intersectionality is missing from this feminist commentary. And I would describe Oppenheimer's greatest flaw as well as the sin of omission. In this 3-hour historic film, the scientific contributions of women were minimized, and no scientists of color were included on screen, despite there being many Black, Hispanic, Asian, and Indigenous people working at Los Alamos and other Manhattan Project sites, including 20th century chemist and Black Unitarian Universalist lay leader Benjamin Scott. Black nuclear engineer and non-proliferation activist Dr. Chantel Murphy wrote about the people and places erased by the Oppenheimer film. Director Christopher Nolan and production designer Ruth DeYoung made an artistic choice to film exterior scenes at Ghost Ranch in New Mexico instead of at Los Alamos, to make it look like it was in the middle of nowhere with nothing around. Instead of Ponderosa Pine Forest, the film's Los Alamos scenes are filled with panoramas of open desert, multicolored mesas, and sweeping grasslands. This decision matters. The environments of Ghost Ranch, drenched in blazing sun and littered with cholas, evokes feeling of exposure and desolation. The film's landscape allows the audience to believe that these areas were uninhabited. Oppenheimer even says as much in the film. But she continues, in fact, generations of indigenous and land-based communities have lived on and cultivated Los Alamos for centuries. Selecting Los Alamos as the Manhattan Project site in 1942 forced about 30 native New Mexican families from their land without fair compensation, and many had to abandon their farming equipment, livestock, and animals. In Nolan's portrayal of a singular narrative, the film concealed the environmental and cultural richness of New Mexico that was irrevocably altered by the Manhattan Project through inequitable displacement and erasure of native voices and culture. And the New Mexicans living in and around Los Alamos were unknowingly poisoned by nuclear radiation. A New York Times article recently shared that census data from 1940 shows that as many as 500,000 people were living within a 150-mile radius of Oppenheimer's test site. Some families lived as close as 12 miles away. Yet no civilians were warned about the test ahead of time. They weren't evacuated before or after the test. Nueva Mexicana professor and author Dr. Mariah Gomez grew up about 20 miles from Los Alamos with relatives and neighbors who worked at the nuclear labs and suffered the effects of radiation exposure. In an interview about her book on the topic of nuclear colonization of her home community, Dr. Gomez said, "I was very traumatized after working with the downwinders. The people in areas near the first nuclear test site and their descendants are so riddled with disease right now that it is unbelievable. The testimonios around Oppenheimer's site were the hardest ones for me to listen to because there are so many and they're so recent. They're people who are suffering right now." And while Oppenheimer himself never did travel to Japan to see the devastation his team had wrought, he did see photographs and read reports and studies about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japanese experience and voices were another omission from the film. As Unitarian Universalists, we can honor the complexities of history and the complexities of art representing those histories. Our cultural inheritance as residents of the United States is both inspirational and problematic. Our art reflects this reality. We can feel inspired to continue the individual and collective fight against patriarchy and militarism, and the individual and collective dream of a society of peace and justice and equality. And we needn't put any inspirational text, ancient or modern, on so high a pedestal that we forget that what people create will still carry errors and toxicity from dominant human society. The fight against patriarchy includes people of all genders who don't always look like Barbie and Ken. An end to violence, interpersonal and geopolitical, will come from a coalition of people treated equally in respect to their equal inherent dignity. And nuclear arsenals are still a global threat we face. Our reading today from Alex Billington provides an excellent analysis of what both Oppenheimer and Barbie intended to do as existential films steeped in American culture and history. As full disclosure, Alex and I went to college together and worked at the same campus news organization. We haven't been in touch in many years, but he's a guy who's always been keen on film. I trust his judgment. As we began, I'll close with an excerpt from his article on the philosophy of Barbie and Oppenheimer. He wrote, "I am delighted that these two movies are so profound and stirring and successful. The cliche idea of going to the movies, what that means has been getting louder and louder in these past few years. That's just shut off that brain, just enjoy it," they love to say. However, real cinema, real intelligent storytelling is about turning on your brain, even making you re-examine your life, your choices, your identity. And maybe, just maybe, it may make you question who you are. There's a perfect quote from French writer Marcel Proust for this. "If a little dreaming is dangerous, the cure for it is not to dream less, but to dream more, to dream all the time." We all need moments to stop and think about what makes us us, process this conundrum between what we do and who we are, to truly understand ourselves and understand what makes us us, what defines humanity. We need to decide whether we want to make the world a better place, or if we all just want more power and/or perfection. May we find such opportunities for reflection both in the theater and in the church. And may we be wise in our individual and collective choices. Blessed be, and amen.
I used to float, now I just fall down. I used to know, but I'm not sure now what I was made for. What was I made for? Taking a drive, I was an ideal, looked so alive. Turns out I'm not real, just something you paid for. What was I made for? 'Cause I don't know how to feel, but I wanna try. I don't know how to feel, but someday I might. Someday I might. When did it end? All the enjoyment. I'm sad again. Don't tell my boyfriend it's not what he's made for. What was I made for? 'Cause I don't know how to feel, but I wanna try. I don't know how to feel, but someday I might. Someday I might. Think I forgot how to be happy. Something I'm not, but something I can be. Something I'll wait for. Something I'm made for. Something I'm made for.
As always, before we end our service, I have a few brief announcements. The first is social hour. Please join us either here in the building in Parish Hall or online in our Zoom room. There will be no Song Squad today, but it will come back next week. So Song Squad, no rehearsal today, yes, next week again. Caregiver support group is also today at 1 p.m. The Strategic Task Force is having another brainstorming session after social hour. And the first Lane Lyceum of the year will be this Tuesday as Reverend Cody Sanders will speak on feeling our way through an apocalypse during a pandemic, politics, war, climate change, and more. And finally, we have our usual weekly events. Fleet Feet on Wednesdays. Thursdays, we have Writing Escapes, Vespers, Meditation Ministries, and on Friday, we have Creative Escapes. Please check Bell Notes for exact times and locations for any of these events. We always extinguish our chalice with words promising to carry its flame in our hearts until we are again. Please join me from home or here in the building in saying these words written by UU minister Reverend Elizabeth Sally Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our closing hymn this morning is Our World is One World, and has words from British poet and hymn writer Cecily Taylor. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing Our World is One World. The lyrics are in your orders of service, on screen, and at number 134 in your gray hymnals.
As we close our worship today, take these words from Euro-American UU minister, Reverend Dr. Audette Fulbright Fulson, written in memory of Eric Garner, a victim of police brutality, with you as a benediction. Do not think we are finished. Oh no, we will never be finished, never just done until the light of justice is lit behind every eye. We have come back to take back the world that is the inheritance of better children, better lovers, better days. We are endless, firelit, determined. Our service begins when our service ends. Blessed be, and amen.